Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the case may be, wherever you're tuning in to this live stream of the Redfellas Sunday night. I welcome you all. It's quite funny that I played that intro and I actually miss those faces and the jubilation on some of those players' faces and the coach's face and then it sort of the intro finishes and then our mugs on the screen and it's not a pretty sight on the best of days, but at the moment, yeah. But listen, it is what it is, guys. You're all very welcome. Of course, I've got the regulars. We'll get through saying hello to all of them. All the usuals are in the house. Does anybody want to say hello in a special individual manner? Feel free to do so.
Ciao ragazzi.
Okay, what's with the Italian? What's the link? Is there?
Parla-Italiano. That's the only words I know. Yes.
Okay, I thought you're supporting. I thought you're looking forward to the Napoli review.
Well, you know, my family are from Roma, so it makes it even worse. The hate for Napoli is real. Naples say they have the best food. They're probably right, to be honest. But,
probably right. I like that.
Just talk about that for a second.
Guys, there's 200 of you amazing people waiting for us. Maybe to speak to us, maybe to hear us, maybe to devour us, maybe to rip us, maybe to feel sorry for us. Whatever the case is, let's get smashing those likes, as some of the regulars in the chat saying. Conroy, you right, mate?
Yeah, you're all right. I say this every week. Life is good. You need to disassociate from football. Football's not so good. I know we're going to discuss that, but doing okay in that one. I was at a Halloween party last night, really at my friend's house. Really, really good night. And then I checked my phone. I managed to catch the first half before the party. Missed the second half. Rewatched it today, but was following it on my phone. I know Keith has done that before. You know what it's like, and it was. So this is the truth, right? It was like 89 minutes. No, sorry, 87, 85, 86. I checked it and I had to go and do something. So like a 2-minute gap. Check my phone again, and you know sometimes you're expecting that the Sky Sports app flash up, you know, like goal, and I see a goal come up, and I'm like, hold on, but we're still at 1. You know, thinking it's going to be 2-1 Liverpool. Who else is going to score? With this kind of old pattern in my head of how things go, because it's definitely not been like that this season. And then I see Leeds had scored with a player that I think I know players. I didn't even know who this player was, and that's not being disrespectful. I'd never heard them before the game yesterday. So genuinely, that was it was a little dent in the evening. I'm not gonna lie. I think when I woke up today, rewatched all the analysts and stuff. Yeah, it was it's not a good one, guys. But we're going to discuss it now, aren't we?
Jamie, I've got a comment from Amit. It says, "Big up, Grizz. Haven't watched your content in a while. Came for therapy. I don't want these shows to be therapy.
That's what they're turning into, though.
Every week, right, Jamie? And same for you. You just recently started coming on the channel, and it just feels like, wait, hold on, is Jamie the bad luck?
Have you had a win yet, Jamie? Have you had a win yet?
Have you read this out yet? Wait, hold on.
City. I was on for City.
Oh yes, you was here for City. Whoa.
Fin ice, Jamie. Fin ice, mate. You're on fin ice.
Yeah, you saved yourself. Hope you're keeping well, Jamie. Hope you're keeping well.
Oh my goodness, everything is good except for the football, Grizz, right? I mean, the team that I work for, the high school team, which ironically is the city that I'm from, Somerville. In our soccer campaign for the kids that I coach, we basically had 2 games to win the regional league, where if we had gotten a draw in either of those games, we would have won the league. Went up 1-0 in both of the games and ended up losing both. This has been a terrible week for football and Jamie Keegan. But hopefully by the end of this 90 minutes, 2-hour session for all of our therapy, including myself, we'll all leave feeling a little bit better, I hope.
Yeah, look, everyone has their own favorite way of relaxing and talking about or dealing with things, and after a performance or a situation about Liverpool is for me, it's chatting to you guys, and none more so than Steve Plunkett, my very good friend. We usually make each other feel a bit better about life and stuff. I don't know where today's gonna go, but you're right, Steve.
I don't know where today's going to go either. I mean, I was semi-depressed, and then Jamie told me the story about his football team, mate. I'm absolutely done in now. So, yeah, cheers, Jamie, mate. Nice one. I'm sure we'll be honest yet constructive. That's what I'd like us to do this, be constructive, because I think it's required, isn't it? So, yeah, not good times at the moment to be a Liverpool fan. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard work. So we'll see what we get from this evening's conversations and see if we all feel a bit better on the way out.
Absolutely. Look, something to cheer you up, guys. If you don't believe in sort of the real life players, get your own cards made. Sod the players if they're letting you down, disappointing you. You need to get over to yourfutcard.com, our channel sponsors, the best in the business. Go select your design. I mean, they're the go-to place for anything, banners, cards, and prints. These are the ones for you guys. Go and check them out. They've got so many different designs and backgrounds, so many different sizes, shapes. You can get your custom flags made as well, all your different ones. If you want FSG out, you look, Glazers out, it worked for them. They ended up spending hundreds of millions. If you want to get Liverpool ones, if you're still up for getting Liverpool ones, and then go and do so. They're the place to be, people. There's a different size of cards you can get made. They're brilliant for prints as well. Where's the print section? Aha, there's the print. Amazing prints. Honestly, real stunning prints you can get made as well. Anything that you want to ask or confused about, simple way of speaking to them, just click here and ask your questions, and they will have everything answered for you. You go to the counter and you type in Redfellas, you'll get 15% discount as well. Magnificent website, magnificent people. Make sure you go check them out. For us, it helps them, helps us. Everyone's a winner, baby. Everyone's a winner except Liverpool right now, people.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
What segue?
You know how.
Wow.
You know how it is. Let's get the super chat out of the way first. Our resident Arsenal fan, big up Zayn every time, comes in, lights up a switch, lights up a fire, and then runs away. Grizz Arsenal have double the points from you. We are winning the league, the decline of Liverpool, and the rise of Arsenal. Enjoy, my friend. Enjoy while it lasts. Let's get the likes up, people. 400 of you in here. So basically, guys, and people in the chat, there's so much to get through and so many different aspects of where we are, what we're doing. I decided to sort of kind of split it up rather than scramble it about and talk about the owners and the investment and the players and the match and then Leeds and whatever. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to have a little chat about the game, the selection, the events of the actual game, and then we'll go into the deeper, wider aspects and let the chat flow. If people want to ask about sort of specific aspects of the club and situation we find ourselves in, feel free. I mean, I have an agenda that I've given the guys, but if you make some brilliant, more relevant points than my agenda, then I have no issues going with that as well. I think that's fair enough, isn't it, guys? I think we start off with the team then and the selection. Then we play Leeds at home. Conroy, we play Ajax a few days before with what I thought was putting the best players out there and putting them into a formation with the players that we've got available, if that kind of makes sense, as opposed to thinking about the opposition, thinking about our strengths, our weaknesses, vice versa. What did you think about the lineup and then the formation that was put out there on Saturday evening?
Yeah, Grizz, I know we discussed this after the Ajax game, as you said, and I know what we mentioned, the start against Ajax as well. With that formation, it looked like a bit, the players didn't know exactly what to do, and I think even in that game and in the Leeds game, there was discussions in between play about where they should be, because you could tell that they weren't necessarily synced with that formation yet. So going into that game, I wasn't surprised, because I do think, again, it's the fittest players we've got right now to use. It's not saying about injuries, but that's probably just the way to get our best players on the pitch at the moment. So I did have a suspicion that would happen again. My thoughts were, going into this game, probably wrongly, that it's at home, got the crowd behind us. we'll have enough of the ball to get a win against Leeds. And I'm not even having a go at Leeds because I've got players that can hurt you, but I just felt we done it against West Ham as well. So with the formation, I felt, you know what? We had that experience against Ajax. Hopefully in between that game to this game, they'll tweak and go over any of those maybe misunderstandings, of where they should be with that formation. And I did feel we'd be okay in this game with that. And then we'll go to discuss the game. But then, again, when something like that happens a few minutes in, your game plan goes a bit out the window. So it's easy in hindsight to say that, but I was okay with it, Grizz. But in the back of my mind was actually the discussion I had in the post-match show of Ajax was, as long as we don't start like we did against Ajax, because it's very easy once you score that goal at the end of the second half to make it look rosy, and then we get the second and third against Ajax. But as you mentioned quite rightly, in that first half, there was issues there. So that was in the back of my mind. But I did feel that we had, again, like the Notts Forest game, enough on that pitch to just get through it in any formation, to be honest, mate. But that wasn't to be.
I'm not going to do the conventional ask the same question to everyone, but I'm going to absolutely give you guys the freedom to jump in whenever you want. If you want to make a point about something that you feel strongly about. But Jamie, that formation and that personnel, for me, in our WhatsApp group, the guys will say, I mean, I was concerned straight away. We'd done the pre-match with Joe Wayman, just Joe from formerly of Leeds TV. And he was explaining to us how the weakness for them was from switches of play. He thought the fullbacks of Leeds were very weak, and he said, you guys are going to terrorize us on the flanks. And I think it was me and Cav were kind of smiling and crying at the same time inside. And we wanted to tell him, we actually haven't got any fit wingers now, pal. We may be in a spot of bother come this game if we employ the same formation that we did against Ajax, and if we only rely on one fullback as opposed to both being brave. That's exactly what we done. I thought we played into their hands in terms of personnel and formation.
No, 100%. And then to take it one step further, Grizz, application. The first 5 minutes of the game, or even just 3 minutes of the game, felt like a manic episode of just everything all at once, high intensity, long balls, never settling the ball down. And there was one play in which I believe it was at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds where the ball goes out left from a switch to Darwin, and Darwin recycles back into the middle, and then it ends up with Joe, where Harvey has tucked in from the right side, and we go straight at that flank down to Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's in a great position. And, how many times have we said this? And this is a point that I've made before about Liverpool and our application of our tactics and gegenpress. If we score goals early, the game is completely different as opposed to chasing games or at 0-0. And so the ball goes from Trent, he underhits. If he squares it in front of Darwin or Salah with two players there, I'm sure it's a goal, and it's
tap in. It's a tap in.
It's a tap in. And from the outset, thinking about that diamond midfield with Fabinho in the middle, Harvey Elliott out on the right, Thiago on the left, and Firmino dropping deep, I felt like the only time I saw it consistently, like I can definitely see this from my TV screen, was from kickoff at the beginning of the game, because at that point things dissipated and you got into situations which lead to the goal, which I'll get straight into because it happened so early in the damn game that we just have to go into it. Leeds start out on their left flank, and I believe it's a pocket of the press where it's Fabinho, Trent, Harvey Elliott, and maybe one other player that the Leeds player is able to cycle through. And that was alarming to me straight away. And then it's the pass down the line, which Joe is seemingly able to take care of right up until the point at which he knocks it back to Alisson. And now I'll yield my time with this question about, I think personally, Gomez didn't look where Alisson was, because when I watched the replay over, he's looking down
100%.
the ball. And so for me, I would put the culpability on Joe because Alisson slips, correct? Alisson slips, in my
100%.
opinion, because he has to readjust last minute to try and get the ball. Obviously, he'll take some fault for slipping, but I think that one has to be on Joe for the opening goal for Leeds.
Casual passing, by the way.
I know Keith is vehemently agreeing with you. Is that the right way of putting it? Vehemently agreeing. Steve, before I come to Keith, have you got any counterpoints to that? If it's any blame attached to Alisson or anyone else, is Virgil anything to do with Virgil there? I mean, I'm looking for names. I'm looking for culprits. I'm not looking to shy away today. No, I'm not. See, honestly, I'm looking to slaughter some of these lads today. So
first thing on the formation, Klopp said recently, "You try and figure out the formation because I'm not going to tell you." And then in the same game, Bobby Firmino dropped deep because Salah and Nunez were trying to play central, and suddenly the media decides we're playing with a diamond in midfield. There is no way on earth you play a diamond in midfield with Thiago Alcantara on the left-hand side, Harvey Elliott on the right-hand side, and arguably the least informed number 6 in European football sitting at the base of the midfield in front of a back four. Who plays a diamond with Thiago on the left-hand side? If he's done that by a choice, then there's questions to ask about the tactics. I just think that's the way media have perceived Bobby Firmino's position in coming deep for the ball, at times into our own half to try and pick up the ball. So I'm not overly convinced that that diamond that's been reported is by design. I think it's because we've got some awkward positioning in terms of playing a centre forward. We tried to play him off the left in Nunez, but he still kept coming central, which meant Bobby had to drop deep to allow him the space to pick up the ball and run at people. So I'm not convinced it's a diamond anyway. I think that's the media's perception of Bobby's positioning, and I'm open to be convinced otherwise. In terms of the goal, 100% solely and only Joe Gomez's problem, Joe Gomez's fault. If he doesn't play a blind square ball, everything else that we choose to speak about is secondary and is of no consequence. That ball goes in the stand. We're not having a conversation about Alisson slipping. We're not having a conversation about Van Dijk not being closer to Rodrigo, because never in a million years would he expect Joe Gomez to do what he was about to do. So I think when people point the finger at, first of all, Alisson and then at Van Dijk, I think that's a little bit lazy. The problem there completely is Joe Gomez. You cannot play a reverse blind ball into your own box when you're not even looking in the direction you're playing the ball. That is absolutely insanity. So for me, formation, I'm not convinced, and the responsibility for the goal sits squarely on Joe Gomez's shoulders. That's 2 games, 2 mistakes, 2 goals.
Can I, if I may, give a part blame to Alisson as well? Hear me out before you lynch me. Can I suggest, and we've all played football at a decent enough level, me higher than you guys, but still, we've all played at a decent level. You guys' faces when I said
put that to the test someday, man.
Faces when I said that. You guys' faces when I said that.
There's 4 in here already. We need to do a 5-a-side against another channel, surely.
But I'm working my way back to fitness. Okay, so in that scenario for me, Steve and Jamie, the only 2 that I've heard, Conroy and Keith may have differing opinions, but I couldn't help myself. I want to give my opinion, and then you 2 can butt in for the other to equalize or to take it one-sided. I agree with the majority of what you guys are saying in terms of Gomez. He's comfortably ahead of the player. He's comfortably ahead of the ball. I think you're right. No, I know you're right. He has enough time to look, and that's the first mad, grave mistake he's made. I also think he's anticipating, because he's in such control, I think he's expecting Alisson to be in his area, in his position, rather than Alisson move out slightly as well, because Alisson has a tendency to try to read the play. I just think in that scenario, possibly Alisson should be shouting or speaking or communicating with Gomez in that scenario, letting him know where he is, because even if you heard Alisson, he could have probably work out that he's not there. He's there. if you know what I mean. Is there any validity to that, or are you shutting that off?
I'm gonna be a bit edgy. I'm gonna be a bit Shoreditch, as we say over in London. I'm actually gonna make a particular point: is why are Liverpool Football Club in a 3v3 situation 3 minutes into a football match at home to Leeds United? If you look at where Aronson picks up that ball initially, once again, and he'll probably send me hate mail at the moment, but Fabinho with the most laziest press of all time. You got Elliott there, you got Fabinho there, you got Firmino there. He lets Aronson run past him, right? Tries to intercept. I mean, someone pull up interception stats for Fab this year, because that can't be the same man that was intercepting balls left, right, and centre back in the day. The old Fabinho would have made the interception and Liverpool would have won it and counter-attacked them. The new Fabinho wanders into a position, lets his man go, and all of a sudden you're 3v3 in a situation. Once you have that ball inside your own half, anything can happen. And yes, of course, Gomez making a mistake, Alisson making a mistake, these situations happen, but this is the inviting pressure on to ourselves and creating these scenarios for ourselves where we only have ourselves to blame. Because how can a team that's so low in the league be in such a strong position so early in a football match? No control, poor pressing of the space in the first place, and it creates a situation that happened time and time again throughout the match. So that's my little edgy take. Sometimes in life, before the problem even happens, you shouldn't get that far ahead. And even being that far ahead, for me, has been the issue of our season. The ball, we allow too much football to happen closer to our goal.
Conroy, was there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that's an interesting point, Keith. I will say this, though. I think, see the season we've had, and we analyse every game, but that goal, for me, I'm a bit more accepting. And when top teams want to play football now, they're not going to kick into the stand. That's not what they're drilled to do. And that's why, if you want to be a top team, you're always going to play that style. I think Man City maybe concede 1 or 2 goals like that a season. Most of the top teams will. It's just acceptance. Is that the way they want to play? I agree, he shouldn't be doing a blind pass, don't get me wrong. But the fact that Gomez is passing there, I would expect any centre-back in a top team to play it from the back to make that pass. Like, it's not... I get what you're saying, Steve, like, it'd be great, and I'll rewatch that if you just hit into the stands, but we're not going to do that. We're drilled to play it from the back, and so with that aspect, I can accept goals like that. Sometimes you should not be doing a blind pass. Like, I think that is like a massive error there, but I can accept that these will happen once or twice a season if you want to play passing football, as most top teams will. They'll accept that. So for me, it's not like the other goals we've conceded this season. That in itself is I'm going to say an anomaly, but I'll say that loosely. You probably won't see a similar goal like that. As Keith said, I agree with your point about people getting chances there, absolutely. But I mean, specifically, the unforced error that led to that goal, you probably won't see that again. I may be wrong, but I may be wrong like that specifically. But to me, I felt like they don't happen very often, and when they do, I can let it go and just get back on with the game.
When they do, they happen to us.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to. I think every top team concedes. Like, I think City concede 1 a season doing that.
No, they do. But in the mindset that we are, and knowing that the scrutiny and the eyes and the expectation almost of Liverpool fans all around the world is, let's not concede early. Let's not do a fuck up. Let's not give them soul space. I think you're being soft, all of you guys, thinking, it happens and it's just one of those. I think it's horrendous.
I'm not being soft.
No, yeah. but what I'm saying is, he shouldn't be playing a blind pass. But what I'm saying is, for a centre-back for a top team to play that pass is like bread and butter. Like, I'm not going to tell my centre-back to hit it when you want to play for a top team. You're going to have to have the ball.
But you're going to tell your centre-back to have a look. Make sure everything is on point. That's not a percentage pass. That's a blind pass. Is in no way a percentage pass, especially when you're the last man
across your box. Yeah, no, absolutely. But what I don't understand is why he has to play it blind, like, because he can look. That's what I don't understand.
Hence the reason I solely lay the blame on Joe Gomez's doorstep, because he can have a look. He's supposed to be a guy who wants to go to the World Cup. He's supposed to be a seasoned centre back. He's a professional footballer, and he serves up that. I'm sorry, but That's a couple of really high-profile
That's the media
mistakes.
saying he should go to World Cup. This is typical English media when someone has 2 good games. Oh, Harvey Elliott should go to World Cup. Let's just
No, we're digressing. We're digressing.
No,
Forget the England points.
what I mean by that is, like, Joe Gomez got man of the match against Man City, but what we have seen since he's came back is it seems to be more prominent that he has got a rick in him. He has got that error in him, and that was the point on that. I just feel like that I completely agree with everyone. You should not be playing that pass blind, but the fact that that should not be a situation where that happens. But all I'm saying is I've seen them before for other teams, not just us. That was my point.
I'm going to come back to Keith with this point because I'm going to start talking about sort of after that. Tahir sends in a super chat, says, can we stop comparing the Champions League to the Premier League? Premier League, they know how we play and our tactics and our team formation. Same tactic don't work in every competition. The only point I would disagree with that, Tahir, is nobody knows how we're going to play. We don't know how we're going to play. We're set up from game to game in a way that even we don't know, or maybe the players don't even know. And Keith, this is what I was going to come to. So we concede very early. How do we? Are you there, Keith? Yeah, Keith, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, my internet's going to.
It's cool. It's cool.
I'm here.
It's cool. It's cool. So I just wanted to ask you, what did you think?
Yeah.
Are we having issues?
Well, are you talking about the Champions League and the Premier League?
Sorry, no. I was going to say that was just a super chat. That was a super chat. I wanted to ask you, what did you think then, once we have deployed that diamond formation, what did you think our game plan was, how to get back in the game? Because what I saw for the next 20, 30 minutes was some of the most horrific passing, basic passing, and horrific patterns of play or lack of patterns of play that I saw in the Ajax game. I'm not going to lie. I saw that same horrific patterns of play, lack of control, lack of composure in the Ajax game. I didn't see nothing worked on or nothing different in the structure. I don't know if you did.
Because who is this? What is this formation? I suppose this formation is a formation and a team that's been patched together at the end of the day. This is not Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp's philosophy isn't to play with almost free forwards and through the middle. There's no width. What we're trying to do at the moment, by the looks of it, is trying to get our width from Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I felt that on the left-hand side, actually, Robertson was getting a lot of joy as we were trying to come back into this particular game, right? That's where I saw the majority of our threat taking place. He was the only genuine wide threat. Firmino at times got lost in what was supposed to be going on. Darwin Núñez was supposed to be left, but then picked up pockets in the centre. Salah did the same thing. Nobody kind of knew what they were doing or where they were supposed to be. And I feel like we've had this story before of forcing Salah to be more central. And what I didn't understand about this choice going into this was why we persisted with playing Salah through the central when we don't have any wide players in the first place. In my opinion, Salah should have gone back to his initial position on the wide and a little bit more flexibility in those wide scenarios. Sorry, am I still here?
Yeah, you're here. It's just a bit bugging.
So that's why it looks horrendous, because ultimately we're playing in a system that I don't believe. Oh no, I'm having a.
Yeah, just maybe try come in and come out. Maybe just try coming in, coming out. Hopefully that'll fix it. Jamie, I don't know if you want to continue that, or if you agreed with what where Keith was going with that. Go for it.
Yeah, no, just to take it back to a little bit of what you touched on, watching the game back today, the passing was atrocious. Like, when I mean god-awful bad, I know that we have strategic risks when we send long balls, when we get lobs in over. And we even saw that play out several times in this game where it worked to our favor, getting, I think, Salah and Darwin in at least once or twice. But for a period in between before we scored our goal and slightly after we scored our goal, which I won't touch on, I'll let someone else get that one. The passing just had absolutely no rhythm except for the play that seemingly was the only one that was coming off from rotation of the left side circling back through Joe Gomez to that out ball to Trent Alexander-Arnold. And for whatever reason, Trent was either under hitting or over hitting seemingly every single pass he made. And there were 2 or 3 opportunities that I can count on my right hand where if his service had been up to the level that we're accustomed to from him, we've got tapping goals there. And the other thing for me too is in terms of Fabinho and Thiago yesterday, along with Bobby Firmino, there was no cohesiveness in terms of, okay, 1 to 2 times we had a play. I forget what minute it was, but it was on, I think it was 15 minutes on. There was a situation where there's a sequence of play where Bobby gets a nice flick off and gets it to Trent, which is one of the opportunities that I'm talking about where he underhits it. But besides that, the midfield and everything related to our performance was frantic. And I think that that's characterized by the Joe Gomez error. It's almost seemingly like Liverpool knew this is a game that we're expected to win. Leeds haven't won in 8 games, and we've conceded now after the goal goes in 8 times first this season. Only Southampton has conceded more goals first than us. And so it's almost like Liverpool was just afraid of the situation happening with which we had to get back into the game right up until we scored the goal, where it doesn't necessarily immediately get better. I'll leave it there.
No, I think leaving it there is safe, because I'm so with you. That pattern of play, Jamie. Sorry, Steve, I'm going to come to you now. That pattern of play was the most obvious, yet it seemed our most likeliest avenue of scoring a goal. Get the ball out to our fullbacks. If we're going to play with the inverted wingers, then have as many people in the box or in and around the box as possible. I thought Robertson was magnificent. A one-man wrecking machine down the left. I thought our right side, Elliott, Gomez, and Trent, was embarrassing, Steve. I'm not going to hold back. It had me so frustrated because we could see gaps and spaces that we could have exploited very easily. Their left back was a centre back, and their right back was my brain's Christensen. Someone's going to tell me a new signing. But we were told by Leeds fans who watch the team week in, week out, that our weakness is our fullback area. And if you have the ability, like we have with Virgil and Trent, to switch play and create overloads, you'll bury us. We done the complete opposite, Steve. Make it make sense.
It's down the right-hand side, it was very difficult because I think we engineered the openings to put the balls into the box quite well, but the final execution was disgraceful. Often overhit, as already pointed out. Often underhit, as often pointed out. Languid, lazy passing. If you want a guy like Darwin Núñez to get his head on the ball from a deep cross, that cross has to have pace on it, so he can use the pace of the ball to beat the keeper, like he did against Ajax. I totally agree with you. I thought Andy Robertson was really good down the left-hand side, very measured in what he did, and was by some distance our biggest threat on the day. Trent Alexander-Arnold looks frustrated to get substituted. But why? Why would he look frustrated? Because he wasn't in the game. So he's got some questions to ask himself. You know, he's got aspirations to play international football. Would you take him to the World Cup in the form he's in at the moment as a squad player? Possibly, to give you something different. But he's not doing himself any favours in terms of forcing himself into first team selection issues. I suspect if we hadn't sent Calvin Ramsey to play in the under-23s in the morning before the game, he might have come off a bit sooner than that, because something's not right with that boy at the moment. He's not hitting the standards and the heights that we've been used to. So I would agree, down the right-hand side really didn't work. And it was about creating the openings, but the final execution of the balls in was absolutely appalling. And what's the point of spamming balls into the box when Núñez has drifted out to try and help Robertson, and you've only got Salah in the middle up against, big centre halves? You need to have a threat in there to do that. And that's something you could say of Liverpool in recent years, that when things aren't working, we just work the ball out to the fullbacks and knock balls into the box and hope that something works. At least Robertson was trying to pick people out. And as you said, a really, really good game. Probably the best we've seen Robertson going forward this season, to be honest with you. But down the right-hand side, pretty poor. I think Harvey Elliott would probably share your frustration because he tried to work to engineer openings. You give the ball to Trent and you expect better quality. It didn't happen. Very frustrating. And yeah, you're exactly right, Grizz. I completely agree with you.
After all the frustration, Conroy, it was your man Robertson who actually gets the assist. Actually, a tidy finish from Salah. I think it was, it wasn't the easiest of finishes. Goalkeepers hectic. They're a hectic team. We know Leeds are a hectic team. You have to match their intensity. You have to match their endeavor, their spirit. Even though they're in sort of relegation zone and struggling and loss after loss, they suddenly turn up. We gift them a effing goal. And so therefore they believe. We love giving out gifts and sweets to every team.
We are that team right now. We are that team. If you're in a bad run, I think 8 games Leeds hadn't won.
Come and play us.
Come and play us.
Come and play us. So, but what we do then is somehow through the frenetic nature of our play, and I'll say it again and again and again, zero control. We still manage to get a goal, don't we? And you think to yourself, all right, we're back in the groove. There's not much celebration, and rightly fucking so. Let's get back to business. Let's settle down like in the Ajax game, like in the Rangers game, and let's start controlling proceedings.
Yeah, no, I agree, Grizz. It was really strange because, to be fair, about maybe a few minutes before that, I did feel like we were creating a few spaces against them. And I actually did, I don't know if you guys agree, I did feel like a goal was coming in that little spell. And I think the actual goal shows you can pen Leeds in, and it comes from Trent, obviously whips a ball in, a little bit too much on it. Robertson kind of comes in first time, half volley cross, finds Salah at the back post. And as you said, I actually think it's a very clever finish because it's not easy. And I think he knows if he gets anything on target, because of the pace is on the ball, it's going to catch a melee off guard, and it does, and goes in. And it is a really good finish. But at that moment, I'm like, the crowd's going, we're back to level. You know what? That could have been a bit of a banana skin, the way, especially as of late. But we're back level, back to square one. Let's just kick on from here. And I've got to be honest, Grizz, as much as I've seen this season, it still really surprised me. And left me a little bit, baffles me with the wrong word, but it's frustrated that we couldn't grab that control at that point, because to me, we've done the hard bit. The crowd's going, let's just control the game, get the next goal and crack on. But as you said, I feel like even though we had moments, and we're going to speak about those moments, I felt like the lack of control suited Leeds as well, because they love that hectic style. And to be fair, I will make a side note on this. I know Joe was here, I couldn't make that show, but those players are definitely playing for Jesse Marsch. The fans might not like him, but those players are 100% are. And yeah, I know we're going to talk about other moments, but I think we fall back to the point you've been saying for the past couple of weeks, and Keith has mentioned it as well, that lack of control in games. And it's not, you can't continue games like that. We're talking about a top four to get in the top four. You can't have that lack of control and expect to win enough games to get there. So that was the disappointing thing after the equaliser.
Yo, what's good sends in a super chat, and he says, I have been rewatching games from last season and a few this season. Question, do you guys think that we take too many high-risk passes? I do. I think it's also part of the reason we don't hold the ball well. Keith, I actually think the opposite. I think there's a safety and apprehension in our play, and it's starting from the back, emanating into midfield, and therefore are actually only two people, okay, add Robertson in there. The only 3 people that can sprint and make runs in our team is Núñez, Salah, are nullified because there is no service of any sort. Even then, as we said, we equalize, but there's no patterns of play. There's no sense of what we're trying to do, how we're trying to create a goal. It's just pure madness still, Keith. Why?
Who's that to?
Keith, is he there? Keith's having a mare today, isn't he?
I don't know what's more mad. My
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's because you're wearing a Liverpool top, and that's just epitomizes Liverpool this season. Yeah, exactly. It just epitomizes Liverpool. But
everything's going wrong. If anything, like this is, I keep seeing you, and then you keep stopping and stuff like that. So, Richard Branson, if you're watching this, man, Virgin Internet, seriously, we're gonna have words. You're ruining my life. You're ruining my life. We need to have. Yeah, it is. I'm having a real fight with this Wi-Fi today. I don't even know if it's coming through or not, but yeah, no, I'm here. All right, it's going well. Yeah, I'm talking.
You're good.
We're good. So the question was, where is it all going? What in terms of are you talking about? Sorry, I need to hear your question again because I didn't hear you the first time.
Okay, basically, I was saying even when we equalized, there's no structure. There's no way. There's no clear methodology into how we're going to get back into the game. To me, it kept. The patterns of play was so basic, it was unreal. It was Robertson back to Van Dijk out to Gomez out to Trent, and Trent tries something. If it comes off, it comes off. Otherwise, we lose the ball again and again and again. Or even Thiago, our much famed playmaker, savior, Superman extraordinaire, having a stinker, and I'll hold anyone who tells me he wouldn't have a stinker. And Elliot, who is the least to blame because he's the youngest. He shouldn't be playing in every single game, having the worst game of the season for him as well.
Well, I'll just describe the situation. I'm sure we've all watched over the past few games. It's the Van Dijk to Gomez back to Van Dijk to Gomez to back to Van Dijk. We'll knock it about a bit. We might try and go on a cross pass. We'll lose the ball. Our midfielders don't want the ball. Fabinho doesn't want the ball. You know, Thiago, you talk about playing those percentage passes. At times, yeah. Funny enough, I feel like we've almost come full circle from the days we used to complain about them. Just like, you know, keeping it safe, if you will. I don't think we look after the ball at all, and I've completely lost again because my internet's so shit. So, yeah.
No, we can hear you. Can you
I'm gonna have to come back. I'm gonna have to come back. Yeah. Okay. I'm still good. Yeah. No. Okay. So it's funny we've come full circle since the days that we used to complain about Wijnaldum holding the ball. And Thiago does play a lot of high percentage passes and does try and force it. Liverpool seems to be a team that like to force the play when you've got 3 to 4 of your forwards ultimately occupying similar positions. There is no one out wide. There's no one in the middle that wants to really pick up the ball. I will say it again, our best playmaker, Joel Matip, in that team, you see what he brings to the team when he plays in centre-back, because arguably he would have had a field day taking the ball out with the amount of space that's in front of him in some of these games. But at the moment, we don't have any confidence in our team to want the ball. Nobody really wants the ball. I look at, again, I know you guys hate me for doing this in the chat because you always bring the pitchforks when I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I look at Man City because I watch a lot of their games. I look at the likes of Bernardo Silva and I look at Rodri, and they want to come in deep and pick up the ball and take that ball into patterns of play. I don't believe that the likes of Fabinho, the likes of Henderson or Thiago have that confidence at the moment to want the football and want to do something with it. And if you don't want the football in midfield, then there is no control. There is only chaos and there's only madness. And if you're going to continue to play in a chaotic style, you better be prepared to score 3-4 goals a game to be able to keep up with it. There are many things that we can talk about in terms of what we've gone through this season, in terms of stability, structure, having to pick a midfield, the different midfield every 5 minutes, etc., etc. But at the same time, the players on that pitch, which is the biggest bugbear I have at the moment, is that you can't be, us as fans, we can't be heralding these players as God's gift to football 1 minute if they can't even at least keep a couple passes together against a team that's in the relegation zone. Those 11 players on the pitch should be more than good enough to be able to at least look after the ball much better than they did. And that's my biggest concern, is there are a number of players who we've given big contracts to, who we really trusted as, quote unquote, what people have been talking about, the next rebuild. They were supposed to be the base of the rebuild, are putting in performances at the moment that make me question if you're even right for Liverpool Football Club at the moment at all. Because if you can't play to the levels that your top pros are playing at, particularly in that midfield area, to even just want and protect the ball, then we are in a big problem. Because This isn't new. Teams taking risk against Liverpool, putting 3 strikers up front, going for it, being a bit more direct is not new. What is new is our ability to protect the ball. And it's just funny, we've come full circle because we used to moan about how slow sometimes Liverpool, when they used to win games 1-0, they used to win it 2-0, they used to protect the ball. Watch some of those games back when we won the league title. I remember the conversations we used to have, or what I would wish for us to go back to a time like that.
Conroy, I want to come to the maps average positions, and it kind of adds fuel to my fire that was raging in terms of we actually played it right into Leeds formation. So we see they're quite brave with their fullbacks. If you see the 25 and 21, not much protection. The 12 and 8 were very tucked in. The Tyler Adams and Mark Rocha. And then the rest of their 4 players were just in a bunch, making run after run right through the center of our pitch. We just did not capitalize in the wide areas. We actually, if you see, look how bunched up our players are right in the middle. I couldn't believe how we started, but then I definitely couldn't believe the way we didn't change things. Was you as frustrated as me? Yeah, as the game wore on. So look, 1-1 goes to halftime. We're expecting things to settle down. The usual.
Yeah, both teams have chances before that, don't they? They hit the bar, and Nunes has the chance he can take around the keeper. So, as you say, it's hectic at that point, Grizz.
Nunes, was you surprised with Nunes having a bit of lack of confidence there, not be able to take the shot on his left?
You know what?
Or was it more difficult than it looked?
For me, you know how I feel. I feel like he's going to come good, but he's always going to be frustrating. He's like, the one thing I don't get is, like, we've had other signings who, when they've came in, their decision making has not been on point at the start either. So, you know my thoughts. You know, I feel every game he's going to do something great, or most games he'll score, but he'll still have moments where you're like, oh, I should have done that. So I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I do actually understand what he's trying to do. But Melly just reads him. To be honest, it is good goalkeeping. He should do better, but he reads him in the situation. And then obviously they hit the bar, which is actually would have been, I think it's Harrison or Aronson who hits the bar.
Harrison.
It's Harrison. That would have been some goal actually. But yeah, as you say, we get to half time, and we're looking at the way it's the formation. I'm a bit like you guys. I feel like, you know what? It's been mad the way the games went. It's been frantic. Let's get some more control, more professional performance second half, and just get the job done and look at how we can, as you say, exploit their weaknesses. But we always talk about this because we always say we're not great for that. We're not great at actually saying that's their weakness and let's pinpoint that. I know we've tried that to change it as of late with the system, but it's never been our best strength, to be perfectly honest. So I was hoping for something like that in the second half that would just make it a bit more controlled. Can I also add a point as well about that formation? It was a coincidence there as well. When we done the Brighton 3-3, Brighton, even a couple of years ago, I'd say they probably spotted this. Things have changed with us since then, but they overloaded the midfield. But the 3-3 game this year, there'll be a very similar average player positions as Brighton's midfield. They're kind of very similar to Leeds there. They kind of a group of 3-4. I think Gross was a little bit more to the left, but they really occupied that area with the runs they made. And you can see there's a blueprint that Leeds have done the same thing on what the player positions there. So I think that's quite a pattern that you can see as well.
It's so obvious. It's so obvious, Conroy.
Yeah,
it is so obvious. I don't know, you want to chime in there, Jamie? That is so obvious how teams are setting up against us. Be fast, be direct, be aggressive, stress them out. That's what oppositions. Jesse Marsh, right? A joke figure amongst British media because they like that. They haven't got a clue, right? But he didn't need to have to be a footballing genius. What he said was outrun them, outfight them, show passion, show desire, show plenty of bravery in making those runs. You fought. Aronson, the young guy who ended up scoring, Somerville, Rodrigo, and Harrison. You guys, look at their average position, guys. Not one guy bothered going out wide because they knew we just keep harassing their midfielders who we have lamented, and I think rightly so, all season in terms of being lethargic, in terms of being not aggressive, in terms of not having the legs and energy, and we still didn't do anything about it, Jamie.
Grizz, do you know why you got Aronson and Harrison confused, besides the fact that their names sound similar. It's because in the 20th minute, the ball comes in and Aronson hits his left foot onto the ball, which hits the crossbar. It bounces out. We're not even able to make a full clearance of the football before it then goes down and comes right back through the middle to Harrison 40 seconds later for him to get the shot on Allison. That's why you got the confused, because they both had an opportunity to score a goal within 60 seconds on our net. And it's just what you said is the most layman's terms blueprint of how to play Liverpool and beat Liverpool. However, the one caveat is there's no irony in anything that you said, because teams have used that blueprint to beat us. Because when you look at the game and the amount of chances and the amount of times we look like we're at 6s and 7s at the back, it's unrecognizable from the team that won the Premier League in 2019-20. It's at this point right now, the team, although much of the spine and some of the core players from that team still remain, you can't see the defensive stability that was once there. And when Keith was talking about the midfield, I think we have to talk about one person in particular yesterday, who was Fabinho. Fabinho has been a shell of himself in comparison to 2019-20. But even just 6-7 months ago, towards the end of last season, I don't know what it is. The guy from January to February had a period where he was bagging goals and putting in these gangster, monstrous performances. And like Keith has said, we have players who typically now seemingly have the profile of ball distributors and players who should be rotating the ball quickly, and we're not effective at doing that. And then on top of the fact that was the clear hole and gaping necessity of what we needed in the midfield, we needed a destroyer. We needed a gangster in the midfield, and we have no presence. And what that leads to is the second balls are always being won by the opposition teams. When we have faulty passes, the other teams are preparing counterattacks on the dime, sending 4 or 5 players up. How many times in the game yesterday did we see situations where 2, 3, 4 Leeds players are breaking on numerical advantages to our Van Dijk, Gomez, and then sometimes a midfielder trailing, sometimes not? It's just unrecognizable from what we saw when we dominated the league, winning 26 games and drawing 1 in our first 27 games. It's unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable. I've used that word so many times, Steve, about Liverpool. Unrecognizable that we're not able to dominate in a second half, kicking towards a cop under a night game. Unrecognizable that we don't eventually create chances and enough pressure to get the ball over the line by hook or by crook, because that's what you recognize Liverpool for, right, Steve? You've been watching them for fucking years and years and years. And what do we know? We know kicking into the second half, a team usually crumbles against the pressure because we overpower them in terms of effort, desire, all of that. And then if we can match that, we will have the quality of a Mo Salah or a Nunes or a Thiago or a Trent, because there's enough match winners there. We're going to get on to, have you noticed, we're not going to use the injuries and all of that business and transfers, and not yet, because there's enough players on that pitch to make that second half count. I didn't ever feel comfortable. I thought maybe if we get a set piece, some scramble or something might work for us. I don't know. I was left unrecognizable.
100%. And we've been out sprinted 11 times this season, which is unheard of for a Jurgen Klopp side. And we are now officially the most counter-attacked side in the Premier League. So what does that tell you? I posted a short video into the WhatsApp group this afternoon that shows Darwin Núñez cover the entire pitch quicker than anybody else to win a tackle on the edge of his box. If you go back and watch that, he knocks Fabinho out the way to start his run. So Fabinho is jogging back without a care in the world, and your centre forward who's recovering from a hamstring injury puts in a 70, 80-yard sprint to win the ball. The midfield is dead. There's nothing in the midfield at all. You talk about lack of confidence. The There's nothing in the tank. Thiago was the pick of a bad bunch, if you like, and that certainly wasn't a great game, as it's been alluded to, already in the show. Really, really poor. Really, really poor. We're not working hard enough. There's no intensity. The press isn't working. It's all very well one man closing to try to make a press. It looks really bad when the rest of the team don't use him as the trigger. And then you look at one guy who seems to be running like a headless chicken towards a man with the ball, and the rest of the team stand around watching. So, something's fundamentally wrong. And I know you've been sort of championing the Fabinho's having a nightmare season right from the way it goes, and he is. And the reason why is because he's absolutely spent. He's got nothing left in the tank to give. There's the big question mark now, and even Jamie Carragher said he ghosted the game. Jamie Carragher is quite honest, but that's a real harsh thing to say about somebody. The big question about Fabinho is how and can he recover from that to add to the Liverpool midfield what he's been doing for the last 186 games. I'm not so sure he can. To me, it looks like he's running on absolute empty.
We're gonna get on to the what we think can and will happen. A couple of super chats. Just very quickly, sorry, Conrad.
No worries, Chris, no worries.
Mohammed says, do you think Klopp will walk it? We were going to discuss all things Klopp after the assessment of the game. Usman says Trent could end up being the next Dele Alli. Someone raised that on the call-in show yesterday. I don't know if anybody wants to have a say on that. Just hold your thoughts if you do. Jadon says, have my money, Grizz. It's channels like yours and others that keep me going in life. Don't worry, Liverpool will be back. Really appreciate the support. Humbled by your words, and thank you very much. It's subscribers and people like you that keep us going as well, my friend. So very quickly, Keith. Oh, sorry, Conrad, you was going to say.
No, just to add in, it's just an additional point. I meant to say at the start, I think it was 11K Leeds ran more than Liverpool yesterday.
Yeah.
Now, at times, they can be taken out of context because if you've got the ball more, I get that. But a distance of that much, for Leeds is quite ridiculous, if I'm honest.
I'm trying to work out if that's one of the highest differences. I can't believe that, Conrad. You're right.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
I think it was one of the highest outran.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, not much words for that, guys, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
But,
ridiculous.
But I don't know, like Steve says, I don't know how you regain that then. Like if there is no running power in your legs, if you're unable to do that, how do you suddenly gain that? Keith, there's no sign of a goal for us. To be fair, there's nothing that indicates there's going to be a goal for them. Someone's saying in the chat, I just wanted to bring this up. Where's he gone? Someone's saying you didn't bring, you're having a go at Fabinho, but not Henderson. Henderson's not on the pitch, my guy, at this stage. Why are we going to talk on Henderson when Henderson's not even part of this lethargy that we saw and crapness that we saw? And I'm not saying Henderson done any better when he came on. So just hold your horses. There's no agendas on my show. There's no narratives or agendas. We don't pick on one player. If we see shit, we talk shit about them. If we see good, we praise them. And that's the way it should be, in my opinion, anyway. Keith, nothing. The changes. What could he have made? What could he have done? I knew he's going to take off Fabinho. It was a matter of time. The Trent one was a bit of a surprise, but hear me out. This is what I said yesterday. I don't know if you guys agree, guys. I thought Trent was having a stinker. I'm not going to lie. Honestly, people are saying, oh, man, how can you blame Trent? I'm not blaming Trent for the defeat. I'm just saying he was having a stinker because I think he's so good and he could be so influential far more than he was. I know he played a beautiful pass to Nunes in the first half, which the one Conroy is talking about when Nunes, could have shot first time, whatever, and another switch of play. But I thought he was brain dead again. I'm going to use that word. He was zombified. I'm going to use that word again. I've been using that again and again and again for him and Trent, for him and Fabinho this season. The shocking part was bringing Milner on as a result. So I didn't mind Trent going off. But you look at Ox, you look at Carvalho, you even look at Gomez going right back and bring on Khanage for the last 15, 20, give him a run out and then increase our opportunity on set pieces, maybe. I couldn't understand that substitution, my brother.
I could see it I could understand it only because I feel like Milner off the bench this season has actually put in some decent performances.
But we're chasing, Keith.
Yeah,
we're chasing a goal.
We are chasing the goal, but I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think it's always necessarily a million miles away to suggest that Milner can put in a ball that something can happen from that position. It wasn't the most shocking thing in the world. What really there was for me the one substitution that could have influenced the game, but he went into himself was Curtis Jones. When Curtis Jones first got on that pitch, right, he brought something to us, an energy, a little bit of a finesse that I felt that we had been lacking in this whole entire game. He has an opportunity to play Firmino through, right? All it needs one pass. Literally, Firmino had the goal and the keeper to fight, and we have to play with that one pass. He takes the extra touch and it deflects off. It goes for goal, takes the shot, and I'm thinking, okay, he's causing problems, right? But then he makes a mistake. He gives the ball away, leads counter-attack on us, and then Curtis Jones goes into himself. And it's such a shame because this boy has got all the skills and the talent in the world, but he is under such pressure in his own mind that once he makes one mistake, and I've seen him do this constantly on the pitch, he then starts to slow play down, look for the easy pass, keep the ball to his feet, and take no risks. And at that stage of the game, you need a player who's come on to play in this position to start.
Exactly. It defies the whole objective of why he's been brought on.
Why are you there?
You've been brought on to influence it, speed it up, make the decisive pass, be proactive. Do not slow the play down. Do not hog the ball. Do not take the extra touch. I agree with you. He comes on, makes a lovely run, and you think to yourself, he knows the mission. He knows the objective.
Yes.
Well, whose fault is this? What is this? Why is this not?
Because for me, it was a surprise that he didn't bring on Carvalho, if I'm completely honest with you, because I feel like Carvalho is the man that he is the player that will make mistakes and do the same thing again. You know what I mean? He pulls into pockets. He really starts to confuse the opposition when he gets into these lines. And it was a Jurgen Klopp decision, ultimately. It was a Klopp decision. Do I sympathize with him to a certain extent, because what options do we really have at this moment in time other than bringing on a number 10 type player who's going to try and make something out of nothing? So, the options that he went with, I still believe that Khanage is not fully 100%. And I think this also leads into the current situation we're in, where we're literally at this putting band-aids on gashes. You know what I mean? There's no stitching required. It is literally a band-aid on a massive gash on our head at the moment. And that's what Jurgen Klopp ultimately did to try and salvage something. But again, these players, Curtis Jones is a perfect example. This is the person that you've backed this man now, right? You have backed this player to be good enough to play for a football team that should be challenging for the league title year in, year out. He was one of your 8. And at this moment in time, whenever he's come on to try and influence football matches, yes, he's been injured. Yes, he's still young. He's got time on his side. But do I believe that Curtis Jones is going to be the player that we're going to include to help change our fortunes? Currently, no. And if that's the case, then that's another handicap you've given yourself by considering him to be one of these 8 midfielders. That ultimately lies on Jurgen Klopp.
Conroy, that substitution, anything to add, guys? If you guys want to jump in on that, as I said, I'm not going to ask the same question unless you guys want to make a point about it.
Yeah, no, actually, just a quick one, Grizz. I know Curtis Jones, it's a divisive topic, but I actually do find him in general quite frustrating, because to me...
You're not the only one, bro.
But to me, I feel like he has got more in his locker. Like, I'm not just saying it. I don't think he's ever going to be a starter for Liverpool. So let's clarify. But I think I've seen at times I feel like he could be a good squad player, but I don't know what it is. I think when Keith says played within himself, that's why I'd sum Jones up. I'd say decision making is maybe his worst attribute, where I don't know why. He seems to it used to be the old saying is young players are fearless. I don't think Curtis Jones, barring his first 10 games, has ever been fearless again. It seems to be hold on to the ball so long. I'm like, mate, go and just try a diag straight away and make a mistake, because it's like you need to get it out of your system. This is the one thing that annoys me. Like, he makes a mistake. It's like Carvalho comes in the team And it's like his mentality is, well, I'll just keep trying it and it'll come off, or not give the ball away stupidly, but, you know, he'll try it if it's on. And I find Jones, every single time I watch him, I feel like you have probably got more, and you must do stuff in training because Klopp's not an idiot. He's not going to just pick him for or randomly, you know, just, you know, to cause a controversy. But I genuinely have a worry for Jones that it's like, he's never, ever going to show what he can do. And by the way, I don't think it's like world beater level. I'm not saying that. I just think he can do more than he's shown. And I am sympathetic towards him. But you've got to be honest, it's a ruthless business, this. And if you're not taking these opportunities, it's going to go that way. And again, Elliot right now is what, 19? There's a 4-year age gap. Is that right? 3-4 year age gap?
3 years.
Yeah.
2-3 years, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Elliot, don't get me wrong. Elliot, again, I still think we do put him a bit too high than he actually is. I still really like Elliot, but we need to calm down with this comparing to Foden. There's some players who are just on a different level. But I think Elliot has showed probably more, and I think he probably would all agree, in a shorter space of time. And it might be that time is running out for Jones because he might not get as many opportunities. Because right now you could say you could get game time. If you're showing it, you can get game time. But when it's coming to the matches and important games, and when, you know, the pressure's on, unfortunately, he leaves me, what's the word?
Underwhelmed.
Underwhelmed, flatters to deceive. Even though I actually think he's got more in his locker. I always find Jones very frustrating.
But he's a left-sided attacking player. When he was coming through the youth system, we've tried to deploy him in one of the most complex, hard-working midfields that the Premier League's probably seen in terms of how it works to set traps and recycle the ball and win it back again. This is a guy that can't get a run of games to get himself going, and I agree with both you and Keith's sentiments that he's probably not the future of the football club in terms of the midfield. He's probably not got what it takes to be the world beater that we need him to be. He's not going to have a chance at Liverpool Football Club. There's too many divisive sections of our fan base that can't stand to see him on the pitch. The idea that footballers don't read social media is a nonsense. Of course they do. So he's well aware of what the fans think of him.
By the way, quick story. He absolutely does, because I put a tweet out a few weeks ago when people were saying injury prone. I was like, the guy's been the most unluckiest in terms of he's got a random eye injury. And then a random, like, he hasn't had a normal injury, a random eye injury that kept him out for 3 months, right, guys, last season?
Yeah.
And then this season, a stress-related injury that's because of his growth. And I done a tweet, and he actually liked it. Curtis Jones actually liked it. So it shows you that he reads these things. He reads social media. The guy is aware of the criticisms and the from that section of the fan base, in terms of the ones that are not willing to give him any time, the ones that think he's in the team or squad because of he's a local guy, local kid, which is absolute nuts and bollocks.
Yeah, I consider myself to be a glass half full guy through everything, certainly in football. And I can sit and watch Curtis Jones play a game, and I can think to myself,
he's got something.
I like what you just did. And then 5 minutes later, I can think, I hate what you just did. And that's typical of our fan base from start to finish. And that's as much to do with, and we'll get onto this, trying to force a square peg into a round hole to make him something that he isn't. And as a result of it, our fan base turns on him. Wingers are not typically known for giving the ball away straight away. So getting the ball and giving it to somebody in better space. A winger wants to face you up, take you on, do a bit of trickery, get a shot off, or get an opportunity created for somebody else. Not a give and go whilst being pressurised by the entire Nottingham Forest centre midfield, where the only option you've got is to give the ball back to the centre-backs where it came from. He's a fish out of water, and I've got a lot of sympathy for him in trying to make him into something I don't think he can be.
I want to quickly touch upon the winning goal. And Jamie, yes, sir, you have the pleasure of discussing that and explaining to us what the fuck happened there and what was that about. Before I want to segue into what Steve was talking about in terms of how did we end up with this midfield. So the rest of the guys, start getting your thinking caps on, because I'm here to ask hard fucking questions. I'm not going to ask you, man, the match shit. You know, guys know I'm fuming, and I have been for the weekend. So, yeah. Jamie, sir, Leeds break the Virgil van Dijk record of unbeaten 70 games in the last minute. And just so happens that Virgil van Dijk is probably the most passive player in events that lead to the goal. I don't know. I don't know. Take it away, sir.
You know, the pre-context is from 74 minutes onwards, Liverpool had 3 or 4 chances to get the goal that would have given them the 3 points, and it doesn't happen through lack of concentration or lack of execution for whatever reason. Ironically, the only switch of play that I think really came off to create an attacking opportunity was Milner to Robbo at the backstitch, which goes back over to Firmino's head, which Meslier eats up. And, you know, credit to Meslier, I think, on Darwin's chances. You know, Meslier got big in the right way, committed, and he made the saves that he had to make. And teams know if you can stay in the game with Liverpool, you can get the 3 points. And it's sort of a scrum, if I remember, and the ball shoots out to the left. I forget who was the person who, it was Nonto. I believe he's Italian. I think, what was he, number 29?
That's right. He comes on near the end. Yep.
Yeah, and he was a springy player. He was getting into places, and he was you know, following their game plan. And I was just shocked at the amount of time in the last sequence of play for Nonto to get the ball, and he sort of like half waits with the ball for a second, a half second, and then he shoots an across. And Somerville, 3 players were within 6 yards of Nonto before the ball goes in. Thiago is not covering because he's ball watching. Virgil is also ball watching. I think it's Bamford who takes the touch in front. It pops back to Somerville. Joe, Virgil, and Thiago allow Somerville to get the control touch on Somerville's thigh. He has enough time to take a touch, which is the set touch on his foot, and then the toe poke. And, you know, credit to Leeds, because when you defend
absolutely
poorly, when you defend that badly, and I don't know how much stick we want to give Allison because it was rather close and it was into the corner, but the onus for me is all on the setup and not closing down Nonto, and then allowing, I know that they're quick professional footballers. I understand that, but he made it look so easy. We made it look like we didn't want to get stuck in. Okay, you get stuck in, you give away a penalty in the last minute, you lose the game. At least there was an argument of being able to show endeavor. It seemed like Somerville waltzed the ball into the net, and Jesse Marsh is off doing this, and Liverpool give up the 3 points.
They give up the 3 points. They give up the record was. Yeah, that's all and done with. They ruined our weekend. They pissed us all off. And it is what it is. Keith, very quickly before we get into some other questions, just very quickly, what are you doing for Napoli? Are you just resting the whole squad, or are you half and half? How's your brain for Jurgen Klopp right now in terms of preparation for the 3 weeks that lead us to the World Cup?
There is no resting now. You can't
even for Napoli?
No. You go in and you prove why you can still go toe-to-toe with arguably the most informed team in all 5 European leagues right now. Because even Napoli's second team, and which they will make some changes, I'm sure, is still good enough at this moment in time to beat our first
rip us.
Yeah? So if you want to prove that you guys are still Ballon d'Or nominees, if you want to prove that Liverpool Football Club can still hang with the best of the best in Europe, there is no time to rest and lick wounds and try and hope to find form away at Tottenham. Form needs to be found now, in like right this second. I will be very shocked if Klopp doesn't go full strength against Napoli. And I expect Klopp to go full strength against Napoli. And I expect those players to play that game as if the 3 points mean we need to qualify for the Champions League group stages. There is no time. There is no time to relax on your laurels, because form waits for no man. And at the end of the day, you've just taken arguably the most embarrassing back-to-back defeats I think I've seen I say I've seen. Everyone seems to forget lockdown, but I suppose because it's like...
No, these are the worst. No, these are the worst. Keith, do you remember last week I was deliberating and we were asking each other, is that the worst defeat in isolation in terms of embarrassment? As a collective, in my humble opinion, losing to the 2 bottom teams especially the second one being at Anfield, and the first one against an abject Nottingham Forest team. They lost 5-0, by the way, to Arsenal today. Shows you the levels. Collectively, these are the most embarrassing results that I've ever witnessed under Jurgen Klopp, for sure. But I was going to say, Keith suggests or thinks, Keith promotes and also thinks Jurgen Klopp will go full strength gung-ho, Conroy. I hope and pray he doesn't. Is Conroy there? But whoever's here, pick it up if you want. If Conroy gets back.
I'm in complete agreement with Keith because
go for it.
Because football is about habits, and you become a team that has a habit of winning, and you can become a team that has a habit of losing. Manchester City are the only team that didn't counter-attack us in recent weeks, and they're the only team we've beaten. If we go to the Napoli game with a weak squad, we lose that. Somehow Spurs follow the blueprint, and they manage to beat us. You think there's Wimbledon's now? You lose those 2 games of football, whether or not the Napoli game is a dead rubber or not, Grizz. It is. Seriously, you can't afford to keep losing games of football. At some point between now and the World Cup, we've got to get everything back in order if it's possible. Imagine going to the World Cup with we've got Everton at some point before the World Cup. That's a tricky game. Imagine going to the World Cup off the back of form like this. How do you recover that when you're sending so many players away to play football matches for international clubs? We have to approach every game as though we have to win it, because at some point we've got to get back to doing something right, because there's so many things we're not doing right at the moment. So I'm totally in Keith's corner with we go strong, we go to win the game of football.
I've just asked the chat, what do you guys think? By the way, we haven't even got 300 likes and there's 850 of you amazing people in here. Come and smash that like button. Let's get that ratio up. And let's see if we can balance this ratio, because Keith and Steve are adamant. Conroy and Jamie, thoughts?
Yeah. It's not a dead rubber game, because if we're second place in the group, we're looking at PSG, Real Madrid, and Bayern, and I think maybe Port or Benfica potentially as the options of teams that we could draw. So I've just broken it down 4-0, and I've read our chat as well, but I just wanted to double check over here on my notes.
Same here, mate. I had to double check as well.
I put it down like this just so that I wasn't crazy over here to make sure. But 4-0, we're on 13 GD and Napoli's on 12. Now, do I necessarily think that we're going to win 4-0? No, but at the same time, I've seen us win 4-0 against Barcelona to send us through to the Champions League final, and anything is possible. And so Klopp will for sure be saying, look, boys, there's something here on the line. Do I think he wants to risk too much necessarily to jeopardize the rest of the games that we have before the World Cup break? I think he'll be hesitant, because as we've seen with the substitutions that he's made over the course of the last several weeks in tandem with players getting injured, he tends to be more reserved with how many minutes he gives the players who are seemingly on edge. But I do think that it's going to be a game we go for sure.
Conroy.
See, the thing is, Omar's point there about Klopp, maybe alluding to that, probably gives us that he'll make a few changes. But I would add, by the way, honestly, Napoli are on a surge right now. They smashed Ajax 6-1, even if it's not exactly the first team. You've got Lozano who comes off. Lozano, they've got a strong squad anyway. I feel like they're wanting to destroy everyone right now. They are on a rampage to prove that Spalletti, if you watch his interviews, the way he thinks about football and now, this is the way you should play, overload instead of systems, looking for those weaknesses. Obviously, there's structures in place, but I feel like they're a team on a mission right now. So my only query is, I probably agree with Grizz that there'll be changes. However, I don't want to be embarrassed. And honestly, Kavera, or I can't pronounce it. He is ridiculous, but it's not just him. They've made some massive signings. We talk about introducing new blood into a team. Napoli got rid of Koulibaly. They bought in a few new players, and they've hit the ground running. And I still feel like they'll again see this as a massive point of view for that team's confidence to come to Anfield and get a big result. So I agree there'll be changes, but it does worry me slightly, Grizz, because I think that team right now, what is it, 32 matches unbeaten, or it's their longest unbeaten run ever. They look on fire. I'll tell you right now, there's a few things you can do, but I feel like they're going to knock someone big out anyway. I would bet with anyone on that right now. I think they will.
I still don't see it. They're an Italian team in the
No, I think they
now
will.
they're the most un-Italian team you'll ever seen, ever. The most un-Italian team. But I can tell Steve and Keith have been WhatsApp in the group and telling Mick to get on their side. Yeah. Mick said, "All right, lads, sorry I couldn't jump on. We need to go strong again." He says, "We just need to take each game in isolation and try to win it. It's a massive test for us in our current form."
I can't believe Steve's done that. That's in texting Mick right now. Thanks for that, mate.
Exactly. But I've texted Omar to level it up and said, "I won't be surprised if Napoli rest a couple of players."
Level up.
But listen, whatever happens, it's intriguing. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I personally think we're going to rest a few.
Just a quick one on the Napoli thing. Do you remember when we were all encompassing and wiping the floor with everybody? We never rested any players for big games. Napoli are on 32 for 36 points in the league. They're 100% in the Champions League. They're not coming to Anfield to rest players, to roll over. They've got momentum, and they will be absolutely all over the game, mate.
I'm not denying that aspect. I absolutely get that aspect. They will be, and they have every right to be, and they have momentum, and they have even their squad players, as Keith says. Raspadori will come in possibly, Simeone possibly for Osimhen. Midfield. Wow, so many options. I just think we have to look after ourselves and assess where we're at right now. I just don't think we can afford to lose a Thiago again, for example, because this is going to be a high energy sapping team. And I get it. Anfield's where dreams come true, and 4-0s are nothing for us. We've done these kind of things, but we have to weigh it up. Is getting first in a group that important to us as opposed to the 2 games we've got left in the league, which in my opinion are absolutely crucial if we have any chance of getting top 4, which I do believe we still have, which will be controversial to many in the chat will have given up. I haven't, but I don't know, guys. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what the press conference is like tomorrow. Is it Tuesday we're playing, isn't it? Not Wednesday.
Tuesday,
yeah.
And then we play Saturday or Sunday? The Spurs game.
Sunday, I'm sure.
If it's Sunday, then I can see us going far stronger. If it's Saturday, let's see how quick the chat is. Let's see how quick the chat is, or is someone going to be...
Yeah. Sunday, 4:30.
Keith, come on. Keith, let the chat answer, Keith. Come on.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so if it's Tuesday to Sunday, then okay. We may go stronger. We may go stronger than I imagined. Just a couple of super chats that I want to get through. Zizi says it's not about winning the group, it's just about winning. I don't know what difference it makes. Honestly, guys, we've shown that we can win in Europe, and it hasn't made a difference to our league form. So there is that aspect. Has it? We smashed Ajax, we smashed Rangers, and we went and lost to Forest. We smashed Ajax and we lost to Leeds. Is it that way around?
Fair point, Grizz.
What has it done for our confidence and our momentum and our mood? But maybe I'm just being a bit moody. Just a couple of super chats before we finish up. LFCR 786 says, lads, question: do FSG stump up the 250 million needed? Do they sell big stars to fund the rebuild, or do they sell the club? He's getting his money worth. 3 questions in one there. There's no options left to move forward. So hold that.
I see what you've done there. The 2 moves. So it meant, that's just within that's the super chat. I've done that, mate. Well played. That's very well played. That super.
This is related. Segues into that. Performances like this will impact our transfers. Again, Dar says. Adams says the Ten Hag era is upon us, my friend. Enjoy, my friend. Enjoy. Denzel D from Leighton Lagoon here, just saying I'm watching you, fam. Big up, sexy. You watching too? We're back. Grizz, my G. Arsenal for life. Shout out to Denzel. My God, my old gym partner from Leighton Leisure Lagoon, which was the original gym. If people know, if you don't know, get to know. I don't even think it's a gym anymore. Denzel, is it still a gym? I don't know, but yeah, man, that's where I made this beach body. 25 years ago, baby. 25 years ago or something like that. Okay. we've spoken about the midfield. We've spoken about these questions everyone's asking. Sort of, what next? Are we going to really stomp up the money and make the changes needed? Because Conroy, I'll come to you first. Changes have to be made, and I'm afraid, as much as Jurgen Klopp has stressed in his time here and has told us time and time again that transfers are not the answer to every problem. Right now, recruitment, fresh blood, for me, is the only answer to the problem. Whether that's January or summer or combination of both, which I believe, it's imperative. It's pure, no question asked, pure negligence if we don't now. Because there's always a question, and we always try to keep a rational approach to things and think unity, loyalty. Klopp knows what he's doing. He knows his players. He sees his training. He's got this affinity with the players. It's all up in arms right now, Conroy.
No, I agree, Grizz, and I feel like we're all quite level-headed here. We have debates, discussions, but I think if you talk about the Klopp mantra, what he wanted to do, the way we want to play, his whole philosophy, and as we said before, there can be adaptability in that, but you need athleticism, you need energy in the midfield, and it's not what I've got. And I'm going to be blunt, Grizz. I think you're right. You say both windows, but I'm telling you, we need more than just one. I mean, this window, we need signings in January because, in my opinion, it's a rescue mission right now because it seems plainly obvious that that's the way he wants to play, but we can't do it right now with our midfield. It's just, you've seen the age of the midfield. Even Fabinho, he's only 29, but he looks absolutely off it. So we need to get some recruitment in for that. And it's a rescue mission because I said to you guys last week, if we don't get in the Champions League, seriously, I don't think the chat would underestimate that, but we aren't other teams. It was very hard for us to get back in the top four and stay there. It's not this easy thing that when you get Europa League, that puts everything back a couple of years, in my opinion. The players you get, the money you actually have to spend to get them, and you're battling with other teams to get those players as well. So it's imperative. And we can have opinions if we think we will manage that or not, but I feel like we need to give ourselves the best opportunity, and we have to sign in January. We need legs in that midfield. We need athleticism to play the way that, let's be honest, Klopp wants to play. So it's an absolute must. And I've got to be honest, I've heard some rumours, like Grizz, I know you're in the know, you'll know better, of the kind of rumoured fee Brighton are wanting for like Caicedo, for example. I was like, I feel like the scouting department have to be on it throughout this World Cup, or on it right now, to be honest, and try and look to get what we can, because I can't see us paying 85 million for Caicedo.
I can't give a shit how much a player costs anymore. I've never cared.
Anyway. No, I don't. But I'm just saying.
No. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But we have to see it. Yeah. I know we can't see it, but we can't see shit. If we go on that thesis and that theory that we've done for the last 5-6 years, then we can't see anything. We can only see selling someone and then reinvesting that money. Yeah. Because they won't go into their own pockets. I was
thinking more alternatives, Grizz, and what I mean by that is if a team's charging too much, we're like, okay, but in the past,
but Conroy, I'm sorry, but Conroy, that will totally contradict the summer.
Yeah, but instead of having one target, having 4 targets, like say Chouameni, right? That didn't happen. One and done, if you know what I mean. I mean, like, no, here's 5 targets. If you don't get this one, go for this one, or one that fits that criteria. But you know what I mean? In the past, Salah, for example, Julian Brandt was the number 1 target. Went for Salah, happy with that. I feel like that's the way we need to go in these next 2 transfer windows. So that's what I was meaning to clarify.
But Jamie, coming to you, if that's the case, it will totally contradict what we've been told from the man himself. Big boss man himself sat there saying, there is no alternatives there's no alternatives that I want. The ones I want, I can't get right now. So therefore, by deduction, or maybe I'm going about it the wrong way, therefore, by what he said, we go out in January and summer and get the players that he wants, regardless of how much it costs, regardless of we can't see FSG paying that. They have to. They are cornered now, in my opinion.
Well, the FSG model has always been about sustainability, right? And I think that specifically predicates on Liverpool being a club that can generate money and value for them. And that is how they view their asset. What is the cornerstone of success for making money as a top football club, the Champions League. And so right now, in January, we are coming to a crossroads of where something will have to give, because if it's Klopp or if it's FSG, and we're in the same conundrum with which we're in right now, where we're not even within a sniff of 3, 4, 5 points of the top 4 spot, we must change something, because if all else fails, FSG will then be put into a deficit where they most likely will have to spend much more than they would if they were out of the Champions League. And so this is something to me that I think about the 2019 summer, where we brought in, 2 goalkeepers and no major signings. And I just think when you take that window and put it in the context of right now, we're a whole window behind. I understand we have gotten it right previously. We have. However, with the amount of money that is in football currently, we will look back on this period of time where we didn't necessarily spend the most, and through net spend and different things, we're able to sell players and reinvest in our squad. And we had unbelievable runs in the past 3-4 years. But now going forward, I think the benchmark is set that you constantly have to reinvest. Otherwise, you will get left with the dust. And so in January, we're now at a point where FSG probably would not like to be, where they're going to have to go into their pockets. They're going to have to pay over the market rate. And this is a salvage mission now for top 4. And I think if we don't invest in January, we then have to ask questions about, is it Klopp who doesn't want to invest in players that aren't the exact ones that he wants? Or is it FSG who haven't said, we'll give you the blank check? Or the in-between of, there's players out there like Conroy was mentioning, where if it's not Brent, go get a Salah, because we seemingly have done that and not done that for certain players, and it's worked out and not worked out. It's a pivotal moment for Liverpool Football Club with a new sporting director in Julian Ward, and there's a lot of risk now, which seemingly I did not see coming from the summer when we were heralding Julian Ward for the Nunez deal, the Salah contract. Football has shown for Liverpool, things can change in a matter of months.
Albert has amazing ideas. Can LFC raise money to so the team buys players? My brother, keep the super chats rolling in, and I'll do my part.
Well, if Grizz starts going back to the gym again, he can set up an OnlyFans for his pecs.
Get out of here, mate. Get out of here. It's a family show. Steve, pivotal. Jamie said pivotal. And I tweeted something. I woke up this morning, and you know when you wake up on a Sunday morning and you just feel like tweeting something really heartfelt. And I've read it back a few times, and I mean it. I finally come to the realization, the conclusion, just me personally, that this is the end of the cycle, not era, not anything else, just the cycle of the team that gloriously won every single trophy that was possible in the last 5 seasons. I'm intrigued. I use the word intrigued because that's the limit of my vocabulary, I'm afraid. I'm intrigued to see how FSG, along with Ward, along with Klopp, along with everyone else that's involved in the whole process from top to bottom, how they rebuild this Liverpool 2.0 that we've been discussing to death, that we are seeing now is in its earliest evolution and going through a right rough patch. Can we implement that same working structure model that we implemented and started in 2016? It's now 2022. Look at the state of the squad, contract-wise, age-wise, players-wise, sellable asset-wise. The floor is yours, sir.
So, yeah, you're right. There is a collective responsibility to turn this around. but FSG don't fund Liverpool transfers. Liverpool funds Liverpool transfers. So all these people shouting at FSG for buying yachts and boobs for Linda and all that stuff on social media, missing the point. We spend what we create in terms of what we earn, our revenue. To go and spend £300 or £400 million on players, which is probably the reality of what we need to do, would more than likely require us to take a loan from FSG because we don't have that kind of revenue in the football club. And you can't just dip into FSG's bank account and spend their money. Accounts can't work like that. So there would have to be a conversation between Liverpool's board of directors, which includes 2 board of directors at least from FSG, to say, we've got to invest to go forward. So here's how we do it. And if we don't make Champions League next year, what's that, £200 million worth of revenue if you do well, circa that figure? Then how much do they knock off the value of the football club? Because the football club's value has gone from 300 million to sort of anywhere between 4 and 5 billion, depending on where you read it. Take the Champions League out of the equation, it devalues the football club to a point. The investment we need is probably greater than the money we lose by not going in the Champions League. That's the conversation. That's the persuasive conversation Liverpool have to have with FSG, to say it's gone from 300 million to 4 or 5 billion because we've done loads of things right off the pitch and we went and won trophies. We've got a whole new wave of football fans, mostly from America. Now we're the biggest team in America. You've got to sustain that. You've got to keep that going. So you're going to have to speculate to accumulate. You're going to have to find a way to loan Liverpool Football Club the money and go from 4.8 billion, if you like, as a ballpark figure, to 4.4 billion because you lent Liverpool Football Club £400 million to reinvent itself. So all these people on social media gone ballistic saying FSG out because they don't spend. They can't just put their hand in their accounts and give us money to buy football players. It doesn't work like that. You know, we've got as I said before, we've got a couple of board of directors from FSG on the Liverpool board to make sure we don't do a Leeds United, to make sure we don't do a Man United and waste money or spend money foolishly. There is, as you quite rightly says, Grizz, and fair play to you, you've said this since day one, since I've been coming on here. It's a collective mistake. We are where we are. It's not just one person, it's a collective. That's FSG's business model. That's Liverpool's involvement in that, the recruitment team, and Jurgen Klopp. And all of those people have to come together and find a solution for this. And it is 200, 300, 400 million pound across 2 or 3 transfer windows to redress the age of the squad, to address the fact that, as Jamie quite rightly says, if we don't do something in January, that could be seen as missing the opportunity for a disaster recovery plan, because this is a disaster at the moment this season, and it needs something in January to turn that around. And if they go and spend £70 million on a centre midfielder or 150 million pound on 2 centre midfielders come the summer, there's still going to need to be some investment. This is a big conversation and a big change in the whole way that Liverpool Football Club is run in terms of its relations with FSG and how it operates itself internally. You're looking at this now, and you're looking at the contracts that were given, and I read something today by a guy. The only player that's really stood up and been counted since we gave him a big fat new contract is the goalkeeper. Everybody else has had new contracts. You can look at them and say, have you justified that pay increase? And the honest answer is no.
This is what Keith was alluding to earlier in terms of giving out the contracts, and at the moment, you know, we even have to ask these questions. But then I say, can you imagine, guys, the uproar if we didn't tie down these mega stars? We were told that 5, 6, Fabinho, Alisson, Salah, Henderson, all of these guys needed new contracts, and they were given the contracts. I believe no one's left now out of that batch. Imagine the uproar if we didn't get them on long-term contracts. So it's a weighing up process that seemingly right now has worked for us in terms of tying them down, but in terms of people like Ox, Naby, I don't know how many you want to name, Keith. We're in a pickle. Anything to add or subtract from what Steve's saying? Because something has to be done. And if it's coming out of the comfort zone for FSG, so be it.
Yeah, but I think, as you know, Jurgen Klopp also has to take a lot of blame for this, because you came out.
This is what I was going to say. I started having a coughing fit. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, of course.
How much of this is on Klopp?
Oh, massively. A large part of this is on Klopp because he made the cardinal sin, I think, in the summer when he came out in his press conference and he said, well, look, I have this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Like, what else do we need? And it's almost as if to say, well, if I was in the press conference and Jurgen Klopp laced those names to me and told me, what do we need? I would probably get my press pass revoked because I turn around and say, well, it's pretty obvious what you need because out of all the names you said, only one player does that position the way he does it, and it's Fabinho, and everybody else would rather be in the opposition's half than in our half trying to pick up possession, right? So you have created a scenario where you have a lopsided midfield of players that are either exceptionally injury prone or are simply you're just trying to fit them in as midfielders, if you will. If I look at the fact that, you know, this season, and we could throw injuries in there. Yes, it's been unfortunate, but at the same time, you know, you're asking players to effectively run themselves into the ground. But if you look at how many times we've had 8 different midfield partnerships this year alone, right? That's not sustainable for a football club like Liverpool. You've got Hendo, Fab, Thiago, right, which was chosen for the 2 draws against Brighton and Fulham. You got Hendo and Thiago, who won against Rangers, lost against Arsenal, won against West Ham in a 2. You got Fab, Milner, Elliott. Now, Elliott's name pops up a further 2 more times because you've also got Fab, Henderson, Elliott, Thiago, Fabinho, Elliott. For me, as nice as Elliott is, I go back to what Conroy said before. Too much pressure for a player who is not a midfielder, who played his position as a 10 almost when he came up the ranks. You've even had a situation where we've played Fabinho and Jones in a 4-4-2. These are not players at that level who should be playing in that position, coupled to the fact that you've got players who are just not physically available as much as they have been and have been given chance after chance. For me, that is on Jurgen Klopp. Pep changed up his forwards. Pep could have argued, why am I going to get rid of Raheem Sterling? He's just won me 4 league titles. Why am I going to get rid of Gabriel Jesus? He's just won me the league title. Even though, you know, that level of ruthlessness to get rid of players who are still and proving it, well, maybe Rice less so, but are proving that they're still very much Premier League quality. We know that Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain and Elliott and Jones, we know that they are a quality level to play at the Premier League. But are they a quality level to be playing at the level and do the stuff that's required from a Liverpool team? They are not. Is Thiago physically up to the challenge when he's only been able to be selected? If I'm right and mistaken, I believe that he's never played a back-to-back. He's never done it. No, he did do a back-to-back start actually against Bournemouth.
50%, I think, is career average, apparently. Something like that. 50%.
Never done back-to-back. But yet he's the main player because, again, Klopp sees him as one of the main starters in a squad like that. But why isn't there another Thiago then? Because once Thiago goes, all of a sudden we don't have a Thiago, right? Once Fabinho drops form to the level that he's dropped, we don't have a Fabinho, right? So Klopp, for me, to come out and tell the fans that was, and he'll admit it someday, I'm sure, and I'm sure more noise will come about it. But for me, it ultimately lies with him. People who are more, you know, the kind of the top red hat and all that kind of stuff will probably argue, yeah, but these are the same players that got us through that season, last season. Yes, that season last season was on the back of about 5 seasons we've had the majority of these players. That was the last time. That was the last sweat, blood, and tears that we managed to get out of that group. You should have taken that opportunity to say thank you very much for such an amazing season, but you know what, we're going in a different direction. And for Klopp not to be ruthless in that scenario has ultimately cost us, because you can't argue that he must not hold a significant amount of weight when you consider that Julian Ward has just come into this role, right? He's gone on and won six major trophies for Liverpool Football Club. He's got a lot more power in that football club, and I'm sure, I just don't buy into this idea that FSG constrained him. He constrained himself, and now he's bearing the brunt of it in this moment in time. So for me, this is the one thing that Jurgen's going to have to take on the chin. And at the end of the day, when a man is in power for so many years in any job, whether it be a politician or whether it be a football club manager, they make decisions that baffle you. And for me, the decision to believe that these were the 8 that were going to carry us through into this season was a decision that has baffled us all.
Conroy.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't press the unmute button there. Nearly had a Keith moment. With regard to what was said, I would agree with everyone. I think it's echoing all the thoughts I said earlier. It's a rescue mission, and I feel like it's going to be, as Steve said, quite a pivotal moment. And I would agree with that absolutely. And also, Grizz, your point about the end of a cycle. I think I would say the January transfer window is going to be quite showing of where we're at if we're looking at to really put a implementation in the rebuild. However, there has been moves already for the attacking options. I get that, but primarily midfield. I think what we do in January will tell a lot, because you need there has to be moves in January, 100%, and we'll see what happens. But overall, just to get everyone's feelings on it, guys, right? Just as we've probably maybe talked about this in the past, and I'll say to you, Grizz, because you're always asking the question. Do you feel, Grizz, do you think there will be a bit of movement in January?
So the simple answer is yes. The context behind it is FSG, I think reluctantly, as we know, they reluctantly do stuff in January. Diaz was reluctantly, or on the back of Spurs getting close to him and him saying, yo, if you want me, come for me now. Otherwise, Spurs, I need to make a call. And I think reluctantly, they assess the situation, and they will have assessed the situation by then, like Jamie and Steve were saying, Champions League means the end all and be all for these guys, for the working model that they've implemented. And so therefore, they will have to evaluate the severe threat of no Champions League right now, guys. Let's be real, right? There's a severe threat of no Champions League. And so they will, eventually, 100% they will have to do what they have to do. How much business? Minimum 1, maximum 2, but they have to, and they will. That's my opinion on that. But I wanted to ask you guys very, very quickly and finally, in fact, leave it for another show, because someone is saying so much. We've got so many questions. We can have a whole host. I just want to get through a few super chats. I don't want to keep you guys any more longer. AG says, I really think we need to have a show on our medical department because it stinks, and how we let Michael Edwards go to Man United. Michael Edwards is not gone to Man United, just to fill you in. He has no intention of going to Man United, apparently so as well. So, but in terms of the medical department, it's a bit of a farce. It's a bit of a mess. The sacking of the head doctor, but people need to know that there is doctors at the club. You know, there's lots of hearsay and sort of spoken on Twitter about there's no doctors at Liverpool Football Club. There's plenty of doctors at Liverpool Football Club. That we just haven't got a head doctor as such right now. Grizz, you're the inside source. I'm not. If you can divulge, of course, barring Bellingham, who does Klopp want in either Jan or summer? Casado, he wants. Sucic, he wants, of Salzburg. There's a few players that I've mentioned before in the summer. Same targets, same people. Weren't able to get them. And now we're going to try to go get them in January or the summer. Albert says, LFC has 93 million followers. If we don't do something in Jan, next year will be a nightmare. Many fans have LFC credit cards. Those card holders can donate. There you go, guys. Get your credit cards ready. 93 million of you. We can do something. We can do something. We're going to call it a night, day, morning, afternoon, wherever the case is, wherever you guys are, as usual. Thank you very much, Redfellas, for making me feel better about myself, I guess. Hope you guys feel better and far more relaxed. Guys, don't forget our amazing sponsors. Just to get Keith's beautiful face, I took off the banner, but I'll put that banner back right up now. There you go. Go check out FUT Card, yourfutcard.com, and use the code Redfellas for 15% discount on all your banners, prints, and FUT cards. They are your go-to people for everything that. Apart from that, if we remove that banner, it says you'll never walk alone. And that's our message, I guess. Liverpool are right in the mud and shits right now. But they will never walk alone. We won't let them, will we, lads? We have to. We are loyal supporters. Do you know what I mean? As the song says. And we will continue. I was going to start giving a rendition of the whole song, but it's way too late and my voice is way too sexy for you guys. Over and out. Take care. God bless.